To read through the letter to the Hebrews is to read the words of a skilled teacher trying his best, using every means at his disposal to urge his congregation to keep the faith, even when they've started to lose their initial enthusiasm. At turns encouraging, inspiring, and anxious, he now turns to throwing an insult at them in hopes of motivating them. But is it really an insult, or is it a nifty bit of reverse psychology? Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. If the main thrust of the letter to the Hebrews is to encourage a congregation to maintain their enthusiasm for the faith, the main image of the letter, which we got a real peek at yesterday, is the idea that Jesus Christ is our great high priest. Picking up where we left off yesterday, the writer gives us a thumbnail portrait of what is to come, saying, "In the days of his flesh, Jesus offered up prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears to the one who is able to save him from death. And he was heard because of his reverent submission. Although he was a son, he learned obedience through what he suffered. And having been made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him, having been designated by God a high priest according to the order of Melchizedek." In these two jam-packed sentences, the writer introduces the themes he will unpack throughout the remainder of the letter. The eternal Christ who came down from heaven and took on human flesh, who submitted himself to suffering and death for us, and who has now returned to the throne of heaven where he functions as a priest for us. The writer even introduces an enigmatic figure, calling Jesus a high priest according to the order of Melchizedek, even though he doesn't explain who Melchizedek is at this point. And with that, the curiosity of his audience should be very high, and they should be ready to hear what follows. But then the writer pulls a fast one on them. In an effort to pique their interest, he insults them a little bit. Referring to what he has just said about Jesus Christ as the great high priest according to the order of Melchizedek, he writes, "About this, we have much to say that is hard to explain, since you have become dull in understanding. For though by this time you ought to be teachers, you need someone to teach you again the basic elements of the oracles of God. You need milk, not solid food. For everyone who lives on milk, being still an infant, is unskilled in the word of righteousness. But solid food is for the mature, for those whose faculties have been trained by practice to distinguish good from evil." Mercy sakes, is that an actual insult to their intelligence? Or is the writer using some good old-fashioned reverse psychology? Commentator Tom Long, himself a former seminary teacher, thinks it is an example of a good teacher trying to motivate a bunch of students who, by mid-semester, have begun to drag a little bit. Quizzes, papers, and class discussion all point to a class that has lost its edge. And now at this point in the semester, when it is time to turn from more basic material to deeper, headier stuff, the teacher needs to do something to motivate his charges to sit up, pay closer attention, and apply themselves in the days and weeks ahead. Will it work, or is it just a bunch of words? If the writer really believed that his readers were just a bunch of dullards, the letter would end right here, but it doesn't. From this point on, he will take a deep dive into who Jesus Christ is as our great high priest. And that's where we'll pick up tomorrow, when our writer recounts what basic Christian teaching is and sets the stage for a deep dive into the faith. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.